Lieutenant Colonel of the U.S. Army says Western tanks will not change anything. This war is not a video game, and he says that the U.S. has no plan in Ukraine. Lieutenant Colonel, he says nuclear escalation is visible if we pressure Russia. Providing Ukraine with new tanks will not change the reality of the current conflict with Russia, according to retired U.S. Army Lieutenant Colonel Daniel L. Davis, who claimed the United States has no plan or strategy on Ukraine and warned that the real danger is the invocation of NATO's Mutual Defense Clause, Article 5, on a collective defense situation which could even trigger a nuclear war. In an interview with Breitbart News, Davis discussed the situation in Ukraine. Davis, a senior fellow at Defense Priorities and a military expert, spent more than 2 decades on active duty, which included combat deployments to Iraq and Afghanistan, and has been awarded 2 Bronze Star medals. He explained, from someone who has done combat operations in tank battles in East-West border patrol operations during the Cold War, I can tell you that the mere presence of NATO tanks does not discount success on the battlefield. Davis challenged the perception many have of how effective the new tanks will prove to be on the battlefield. He said the problem is, whatever works in video games and on paper, you have to make it work in practice. And very few people anywhere in the Western media or anywhere in the media understand this issue, which is how combat power is created. And it's not just the platform, although that's very important, but about 90% of the success is the people who operate the equipment, he said. To achieve this, he explained, a trained person in each of the positions inside a tank is needed, in addition to a trained crew that knows how to fight well together. And then you have to have a trained platoon, platoons to be company, a company to be a battalion, and so on, he said. So all this is necessary, and it takes time, he said. Recalling his unit's intensive training in Europe and Saudi Arabia in 1990, Davis noted, "You can't send 500 Ukrainian dudes to Germany to do 6 weeks of maneuver training and think you're going to get the same result because these guys don't have the experience," he said. They don't even have the basic understanding that we've had an entire career and our entire training before we even get to that moment of combat. Davis suggests that you might imagine the odds that someone who has never seen this equipment will have to fight in a few months, because it might work for movies and video games. Every weapon doesn't actually work that way, he said. What makes anyone think that just the presence of a different kind of tank will suddenly change all of this? Another problem Davis pointed out is that Ukraine already has strategic weapons on the ground throughout the conflict. He said, it's not like Ukraine does not have tanks, and so they need more to operate, because suddenly Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky has asked for 300 new tanks. Well, the fact is they have, depending on who you want to believe, they have about 1,000 tanks already. And according to Bloomberg, close to 410 Soviet-era ones have been given to them since the war started, he said. So they have chariots, they have guns, he said. We've given away a bunch of them. They also have rocket launchers. As a result, Davis wondered, what exactly is an Abrams or a Leopard tank going to do differently than the T-72s, T-80s, or T-64s they have right now? And that's the part that nobody even talks about, he said. I've been scouring the internet and any reference I could find for months, and there are hardly any tank engagements, he noted. Noting how Ukraine, in a year of fighting, has never pushed Russia out of the Donbass region, Davis asked, what makes anyone think that the presence of a different kind of armor is going to suddenly change all that? He also noted that Ukraine has no experience in maneuver warfare. He says they have a lot of experience in trench warfare, static warfare, and defense warfare. They've actually become very good at it, and that's why it's so difficult and so necessary for Russia to push Studenok, because he's really, really good at defending, he said. But that does not help you offensively. It's a completely different skill set, and it's not, I haven't seen any evidence that they have that, he said. Davis, who fought in the largest tank battle of Desert Storm, the Battle of 73 Easting, concluded that the expectation that so many in the West, and certainly those in Kiev, have expressed, that they believe that the possession of these Bradley, Abrams, Leopards, AMX-10, M109, Paladins, etc., together, it will allow them to go on a NATO-style offensive maneuver, is just not going to happen, he said. Make Russia want to go to war? The former lieutenant colonel admitted that if we provide all this equipment that would have a way to end the war and win it for Ukraine without triggering nuclear retaliation from Russia, then I'd be willing to say it's worth it. However, he explained, there is none of that. All you're doing is making Russia want to fight more, not deterring it, he warned. If anything, it makes them want to be more aggressive, he added. It makes them absolutely believe we can't lose this and redouble their efforts. Finally, Davis stated that the U.S. involvement is large-scale. He said, we do everything but physically pull the trigger, he argued. We provide information, we provide ammunition, we provide weapon systems and repair facilities, literally everything but pulling the trigger, he said. This is from Pro News. I've translated this for you from a Greek article. Please leave your comments, and thank you for your support. Kindly support my Patreon account. The daily posts are 5 videos daily, and they are totally different from what I have on my YouTube channel. Thank you so much for your support, and that you find all my content so interesting. You'll find the Patreon account details in the description box.